Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you can take your seats, please. So it's the worst part of the conference now. We're getting towards the end, which is such a shame after a great couple of days. But what we've done is, as is tradition, we've put together a great final panel to talk about some of the issues that were discussed, some of the issues that were missed, and any other kind of thoughts on how the automotive logistics industry can develop. But before we start the panel, you'll find the evaluation forms in front of you on the tables. The evaluation forms are really very important to us, and we take them very seriously. Perhaps maybe I should say they're very important to you, because if you tell us what you want, what we can do to make your conference a better event, then hopefully we'll all benefit. So please take the time to complete the evaluation forms. Let us know what you think, any ideas, any suggestions. We take them very seriously, so please take the time to do that. They'll be collected at the end of the session, and they'll go into a prize draw, which you'll be presented with. The winner will be presented with a selection of the Queen's favourite biscuits. And of course, if you're Scottish, I apologise for that, if you don't consider her our Queen anymore. But there's also going to be a quick prize draw now for a TNT truck from TNT, surprisingly enough. So we'll just do a quick draw. If you can, we'd like to invite the beautiful. Nick. Yeah.
There you go. Well, this truck is, our effort to be eco-friendly is electric. It's for age 8 upwards, Louis, so even you can operate it.
Yeah.
And if we send enough of these out, we'll get the kids hooked and cure the driver shortage at the same time. No?
Yeah. So, and it's a small truck. If you can cube that out and make it good, that could be very cost efficient.
If we talk about all these electronic things happening in the future, this might be the truck size we're actually using, Louis.
Yeah. And a driverless truck.
Driverless as well, mate, yeah.
Okay. So is that what driverless trucks are going to be like? But who the heck's going to be standing on the side of the roads with a remote control trying to... I don't know how this is all going to work.
New job for somebody.
Yeah.
So who's won it, Lou?
So the winner is Justin Lancaster from Air Charter Service.
Is Justin still here?
I think Justin was here.
He ran all the way from the bar.
Just in time. Yeah. Come on, back in there.
Justin, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
There you go. One TNT truck.
Thank you. There we go.
Thanks.
Nick.
Thanks, Justin.
Lou.
Thanks, Lou.
So, onto the panel discussion and onto the questions from the panel. Of course, it's your conference, your session in many ways, so you'll be able to ask the questions, any questions from the floor. We'll also be collecting questions online, but preference is always given to those on the floor. If you have got a question, raise your hand, wait for the microphone, say your name, company name, and then ask the question. I should introduce the panel, I guess. Although, if you're at an automotive logistics conference and you don't know these three guys, you're probably in the wrong event. But from the nearest to me, Grant Belanger, with one of the longest job titles, Executive Director, Material Planning and Logistics, Parts Supply and Logistics for Ford. And I think we've even cut some words out of there as well, Grant. So.
I think you might have added a couple.
Yeah. Dana McBrien, who was on earlier today from Honda. And on the far side, Bill Cook, Head of Global Logistics for Chrysler. Is it Chrysler? Do we call it Fiat? Chrysler, Fiat? What is it? CFA? Fiat Chrysler, yeah. So as is my I suppose, privilege to start the questions off. Well, perhaps maybe I'll give them a chance. Is there anything that you want to say as an opening statement before we start going to the questions and answers? Dana's got the advantage because he's been here for the 2 days as well. So I'll start off with Dana. So it's just an opening statement. It needn't be anything particularly from the conference. It could be just some points that you want to make about general points on the industry. It shouldn't be long. We're not expecting to start off with a presentation, but just to give you an opportunity, just a few words before we go to the actual questions. So
Sure.
I'll start off with Dana.
Sure. As we talked, I talked with Louis, I guess it was earlier this morning, and asked him what he would hope to get out of this panel. And I assembled some observations from the past 2 days. And a couple of the observations, and I'll look for nodding heads, either yay or nay, whether you agree with my comments or not, but there was a lot of focus on the Tier 1 suppliers and below, the supply chain below. And I don't think any of us would disagree that they've got a tough job. It was very interesting to hear the last panel and talk about the interaction with an LLP and trying to employ an LLP to improve the Tier 1 supply chain. The representation that we have in here, though, is rather unique because those were large LLPs. We have the supplier who, when we make a phone call to follow up on any kind of issue, we're talking to the general manager / shipping manager / purchasing manager / you fill in the blanks, and they take on many roles. So one of the keys one of the key takeaways for me, and this actually initiated about 3 years ago. There was a panel where something was said that really stuck with me, in that the Tier 1s had basically said, we don't have the buying power that you do, we don't have the negotiating power that you do, we don't have the people to do what you do. How can we join your networks? How can we take advantage of what you've already built? So when Louis called me about the opportunities this week, I said opportunity. One of the panels was one of the Tier 1 panels, and how an LLP can support, or the LSPs can support the Tier 1s. So I think one key takeaway here is the Tier 1s have a tough job. There are opportunities for us to help them. Of course, we have to be very careful not to show favoritism and not to do things for one company that we can't or don't do for another. But the LLPs are in a position where they can offer services, offer support that is very unique, that one Tier 1 can't necessarily do on their own, but they can offer that support to multiple Tier 1s and create the networks for them. So just a challenge for the LLPs. I was going to also reference that this morning Louis made a revelation that he learned that he's called a moron in many languages, many locations, but I'm not going to go there.
Of course, you disagree with that, Grant. You've always had the highest respect for me.
Absolutely. I don't know how to say it in Portuguese.
Opening comments?
A couple. First thing is, always at this conference, Louis always kicks us off by asking you guys to do the evaluations first. So make sure you evaluate us very positively before we get done. But I think, something I'd say about the industry and about the logistics activity here and around the globe, it's relentless. And the relentless pursuit of continuous improvement isn't going to let up anytime soon. And it's becoming more and more competitive in every corner of the world. Last year we were here, and one of the things I said is you could see the gravity tilting to the east. Well, it seems to be tilting a little bit southeast as well. So the challenges we have are just becoming more and more complex. And as the industry expands and we pursue growth, the challenges we have are going to be that much more complex to get at. Something we've got to look at is how do we deploy technology, not only in our internal operations, but how do we deploy our technology across the different channels within the logistics world, and how do we do our work? Mobility, everybody in this room has a cell phone. Everybody in this room, and it's not just a cell phone, it's a smartphone. Everybody in this room probably has some sort of a tablet. Every day, we do our personal business that way. I would challenge you to say that that's the way we do our commercial business every day. Simplification through standardization and technology deployment is something we really have to pursue to help us overcome some of these challenges that we have. The other thing is globalization truly is globalization. It's not regionalization. And we're struggling, I think, as an industry, both logistics and as the automotive industry, to truly become global. And that's going to be a challenge, I think, that we're all going to have to work through. And then finally, I think the root of all of this is data. How do we have commonization, standardized data, so that we have less atomization of the work that has to be done at all tier levels of the supply base, all tier levels of the logistics service providers? Because today when you talk to us, it's like you're talking to the United Nations. You're talking to different companies with different data standards, and that makes the burden that much more difficult. I want everybody to understand, I'm laying it out, I'm not promising to solve it. But these are the things that we've got to get at, right? And we have some forums for us to get at it, but they're not completely inclusive, and therefore we're going to continue to struggle. And there's always, of course, the question of, is it proprietary, and does it give you competitive advantage? And some of that we've got to get ourselves over in order to be competitive and be able to help ourselves be a competitive industry and also drive ourselves and our customers to products they want to buy. Okay?
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, Louis, thanks for inviting me. I think I mentioned I hadn't been here in a couple of years to this conference. Always seems to be a conflict, but glad I'm here. Echoing a couple of the points of my colleagues, I think, well, Louis brought it up. What's happening at Chrysler? Well, Chrysler and Fiat coming together. Many of you have faced that, so we're certainly, I think, as there's a consolidation of capacity, as there's consolidations within the industry, certainly one thing that we've seen at the Chrysler Group is how to converge, how to get to what Grant described. Common processes, make sure that we're consistent, that we have one voice to the customers, to the suppliers, and to the community. From my perspective, I think a lot of it's going to be how we manage the information, how fast and nimble we will be at gathering and seeing the data so that we understand what's going on in our various networks throughout the world. It seems to be a fundamental principle that the better visibility that we have to the supply chain, whatever is happening in the supply chain, the faster we can make decisions on getting vehicles out to customers or parts into plants and making those types of critical decisions. We're all under the same kinds of competitive pressures because we're competitors. The product is certainly competitive, but the industry itself, from a logistics perspective, does a lot of things similarly. So I think there's opportunities there. Some of the themes of some of these conferences in the past have been how do we share networks and do things together, and certainly that's some of the opportunities that we've investigated, and we've had some success with some other companies on how we can share inbound networks and what we can do on outbound networks. And so as we go globally, we're behind other companies, but I think it's we're going to have a big focus. We've got that focus in other parts of the world, and it's pulling it all together. So I may segue into some of the questions that you would ask, Louis, but from our perspective, having information, getting to standard processes, making sure that we treat our suppliers equally across the globe, and that we have that one voice is important.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask the first question, and probably the next 10, because I like asking questions and being on the screen. Green logistics. We never really discussed green logistics over the last 2 days. Is it because it's a given? Is it because it's no longer important? Is it because we actually want global warming after last winter? So, Grant, green logistics, is it important?
I think that within the world that we live in, I think green logistics and being conscious of the footprint, the carbon footprint that you put down is critical. It is part of it. But one of the things I said when I opened up, it's this relentless pursuit of continuous improvement and efficiency. And marrying that to green logistics has to deliver both. So that is a challenge, and it's something that you need to look at. I mean, we have, within Ford, right, we're very much focused on a number of different green objectives. Zero waste to landfill, so from a logistics standpoint, the team plays a huge role in that perspective. So designing out disposable dunnage, recycling, et cetera. So we play a role in that. I think by default, we do get the benefits of improving fuel efficiency and CO2 capture within the industry simply because the governments around the world, whether we like it or not, are delivering that. And again, the relentless pursuit of efficiency. The fewer number of conveyances, the different modes that we can use that use less fuel, generate efficiencies in ecology. And we do need to look at that, but that is just part of the process. The green part of this that's just part of the DNA of getting there. And it's getting more playtime or airtime as a separate entity within the logistics space, but it is part and parcel to what you have to do. Some of the challenges, though, is we're getting longer supply chains, right? So that means you're conveying things a much longer distance. On a per mile traveled, I'm not sure that we're getting greener, but certainly on a per unit delivered, you're using less fuel. So what's the right balance? But yes, we have a role to play, but you still have to be competitive to deliver it.
Okay. Dana?
Yeah, my take on that is Grant was spot on when he said we do a lot of things inside of the design, the development, and inside of our business processes. It didn't go away. It was a discussion point for a period of time, and like some things that you talk about for a while, then you start to implement, and then becomes habit. That's my take on it. It's become habit. Mm-hmm. The optimization in logistics and reduction of miles and continuing to reduce our footprint. It's become more habit, so we don't talk about it as much, but it's still there. The other thing that we haven't ventured into, and you've probably seen Procter & Gamble's evaluation of the use of CNG fuels, alternative fuels. Anheuser-Busch just came out and basically said they're flipping their entire fleet in the Houston area to CNG. We haven't really, I think, ventured very far into that discussion. We made an announcement about, I think it was probably 3 months ago, that we're starting a program within Honda to start to transition some, not all, but some of our fleet over to CNG. Because of our routes not necessarily connecting with the infrastructure, we're starting by basically creating our own infrastructure and putting a CNG filling station on site that we can use a hub and spoke network. We've also initiated that inside of our dealer delivery network for aftermarket. So it's incumbent upon all of us to try to take those measures and take it to the next step, the next level.
Bill?
Yeah, we had to raise it we did raise the green supply chain up a couple of years back as part of an overall sustainability report that we do. And creating the metrics was the first step, and I think that we've got a good set of metrics on how we're taking CO2 gas out, the reduced miles, and that was the first step. Seeing great progress there, but also sponsoring, as Dana and Grant said, zero waste to landfill, putting efficient lighting into cross docks. That's really our role now, is to make sure that that it's out in the forefront. It's not an afterthought. I think it always has been part of what we've done in a continuous improvement to reduce miles and reduce costs, but also to keep track of what that with the metrics of what the effect is. I do believe that CNG is a very viable technology. We have our own fleet. Any of you that are from the area know that, or seen the trucks around here. And so I think it's a very viable alternative. The technology is there. The right size engine is now available, the 12-liter engine for our size application. So we're a big proponent that it's a way to go, I think, and it's going to happen fast. It's just going to be the right applications, and you'll see the filling stations and all the rest come along with that. The infrastructure will develop. So we're excited about that as an opportunity, and then just keeping all the green supply initiatives in front of us and creating more. It's part of what has to become part of our DNA.
I would just add, right, that mode selection is an important part of that. And not every region of the world has multiple modes for you to select. You know, Brazil is a point in fact, right? Everything that gets delivered in Brazil within the industrial world, other than some raw materials like iron ore, it's delivered by truck. You know, we're blessed in Western Europe and European theater as a whole, North America, with multiple mode opportunities. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that those modes are running at an efficient level, right? So deviating from a rail mode into a truck mode for velocity issues or backups, et cetera, inherently causes problems in terms of being able to deliver a more efficient and greener mode. So it's important in those markets where we have multiple modes and opportunities, we need to make sure that we work with our logistics partners, right? And deliver the mode at the velocity that it's supposed to run and continue to invest in the conveyance levels so that we can run those modes efficiently.
Okay. And just kind of perhaps linked to green, but not necessarily, the use of technology. After this year, is one of the most important technologies and source of information that will help you in your job in 2015 going to be the Weather Channel? What are you going to be doing to prepare, or what have you learned from the lessons of this year and the winter?
How to shovel snow efficiently. I think, Louis, first of all, you're dating yourself because nobody who has a smartphone looks at the Weather Channel anymore. They use the Weather Channel app and live radar. So that's one thing. I think, you know, climate and winters and fluctuations, you know, I'm not going to go on one side or the other, right? Obviously, weather has always been a factor in our business, right? This particular past winter was atrocious. Is it a tool? It's always a tool. I think when you start looking around the world, right, where are you? It's capacity. You know, one of the biggest issues we all ran into in North America with this winter, which then affected the outbound modes for maritime included, right, is, holy smokes, you couldn't find deviations to deliver the material. So the place just came to literally a frozen halt. But, you know, the one thing I don't think any of us experienced yet is we haven't lost production due to a huge swarm of locusts coming down on the country, right? But everything else has come into play. How do you prepare? I'll tell you right now, I don't think there's anybody out here saying that they're going to go and buy incremental capacity and pay for incremental capacity in the marketplace because we're afraid some snow might come, like last year. But we have our lessons learned, right? And we know, you know, I'll give you one. We know that we will take action a lot quicker to ensure our network is fluid versus what we did last year. You know, because everybody said it was going to be sunny tomorrow, and it sure as hell wasn't.
Dana?
Well, I agree with what Grant said about you really can't build a contingency for every situation. I'd really like to thank him for putting this swarm of locusts out there for us. That'll be our next one to deal with. But you know, the point that he made about making sure that our networks are fluid, our networks are flexible, is definitely one of our focuses. And putting in some predictive tools, not necessarily watching the Weather Channel, but some predictive tools by region that tells us where we've got a potential issue and we can start to act days ahead. But even that's not perfect. Good example of that was we were watching storms move through the south region last year. The area that it was supposed to hit, it didn't hit. It hit about 100 miles away, and there we were. But it's definitely putting in some additional contingencies. We're looking at contingencies that we didn't use years past for years future.
Yeah, but isn't the joy of being in logistics that your bosses come to you and say, why the heck haven't we got capacity this year? It happened last year, so you should have been ready for this year.
Well, we tried to sell snow plows and salt to the state of Georgia, but they weren't buying this year. Okay.
I think that's just part of the business. Everybody in this room that's been involved with logistics for any period of time, if it isn't a cold winter in one part of the world, it's a hurricane or it's a volcano or it's something. So every couple of years, or even every year, we're presented with different challenges. And if you're a global company with a global supply chain, you're on 24/7 looking for the next earthquake or the next hurricane or typhoon and what it's going to do to your operations. And I think we'll do some tactical planning and tune up some things because maybe we got a little bit complacent to what we should expect in a winter. I think that the message that I was giving to my supply base was, you got to let us know where you're having problems, and you've got to let us know as quickly as possible so that we can take remedial action and we can work around it. And you do have to treat each event with its unique characteristics of whatever that is. We also learned that you create bubbles and holes in supply chains by doing that. So there's that whipsaw effect, and you got to be able to look today, what's happened to me today, but 5 days later it's happening someplace else, and somebody that might have been asleep at the switch got rudely awakened because they didn't think it was going to affect them. So we need to be a lot better at making sure that nobody's asleep at the switch 5 days down the supply chain, and we'll do better at that. But we're all hoping for a much milder winter, this upcoming winter, at least up in the upper Midwest around Chicago. So that's an area unto itself. I could probably spend about an hour on what we should do about Chicago.
I think we should send about 1 million sun lamps to Chicago to keep it warm during the winter.
That's where you want global warming just on Chicago. I don't care about the rest of the world.
Strategic global
Chicago
warming.
would be nice. So.
Just right out, if there's any questions from the audience, raise your hand and make your point agreeing. I'd particularly like someone who's going to completely disagree with anything the three of the most important potential customers of yours.
Quit baiting the audience. That's fair.
Grant actually said you'd be too scared to ask any tough questions, but I don't like to start trouble. I've got to, don't worry, you're not getting off easily. I've got a bunch of questions myself. Kind of looking at globally, you mentioned, Grant, that it's very much a global industry. Which region is going to have your most attention for, maybe 2015? Is it going to be Mexico, China, US?
Wait, let me look into my glass. There's not enough alcohol in that. I think the challenges are varying. I mean, when I look around our business and what's going on in the world, obviously we're experiencing a lot of growth in Southeast Asia, but we're also experiencing some difficulties in Southeast Asia with the different economic impacts and the variation in growth. But there's a lot of work to be done in Southeast Asia, so that's going to get a lot of attention. India will get some extra attention out of that as we launch a brand new plant in India towards the end of the year. I think South America needs help, right? The industry there and the economy is not good. The growth is down, and I think Brazil's officially in recession. So we got to do some work there, and we need to deploy some of our tools that we haven't deployed in some of the regions around the world. But again, I started out by saying it's a relentless pursuit of efficiency. And every single region of the world will get that attention. So, my boss is always fond of telling me, you're really doing great, but what else can you get? All right? And as we go through our process, and we have a very good process inside of Ford Motor Company, we're constantly looking at what's happening in our business plan, and we're looking at what are the adjustments we need to make. That cascades all the way down into the logistics activity and purchasing activity to see what we have to do to try and stay on track. So it's relentless. There is growth and there is challenges, and I don't think that there's any specific region that I would say is going to get more attention than not. There will be specific elements that will get more attention. Anytime you're launching a brand new plant, you're going to provide a little bit more attention and as a startup, right? And we'll be looking at what we've got to do around the globe as we launch a new product to assure that we don't have issues with the logistics channel to get the material to the plant or get the product out to the customer when we plan to do so.
Is it possible to have one Ford, one logistics system?
That's where we're headed. I think, right now I'm the guy. So maybe there's, maybe Scotty Doohan, my guy, right? I think there is a way to get to a single logistics process and a single operating system for logistics. And it is all about standards, and it's making the leap from regionalization to true globalization. It doesn't mean you have a single partner. It doesn't mean that you have rigid requirements, but you certainly have common practice policies and procedures and standards that allow you to share and immediately drive improvements across the globe because you are the same. Now, on the reverse side, if there's an error state and you're all the same, you suffer the same way as well. And that's the same thing. That's no different than what we've seen in the industry as we've gone to single sourcing, right? Yeah. It's great, but as soon as there's a problem, and not so great, and we're usually on the receiving end of get me out of trouble, right? That's right. So it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm. Bill, with the global responsibility, have you got a particular region that's going to stand out for you?
Yeah, we've got actually all regions are very important, but we just issued in May a 5-year plan to analysts and to the world, and the focus will be in Asia. We're actually, as a Fiat Chrysler combined company, we're behind the curve, behind a lot of our competitors. Our presence in Asia, China in particular. We are building a new plant in Brazil. Hadn't been to Brazil in a while, and I've been there now in the last year 5 or 6 times because, as Grant indicated, having a global process, taking the global expertise down into these regions and making sure that when we do something new, when we are supporting a new plant, we're trying to bring the benchmark processes. And I'm not saying it's a NAFTA and it's not Bill Cook's, it's whatever will work, but it should be a global process. So that's been quite interesting because, again, the companies coming together, Fiat and Chrysler, is relatively new. So we've got different sets of tools that we use. Certainly they're IT-based, but we can bring the business process together, but the tools might take a little bit longer to bring together and converge. But we like what we see, and that's a big effort. That'll be a big effort for the company in and of itself. Maintain everything we're doing in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. Grow in Latin America and Asia Pacific. So a lot of stresses on the organization. So one part of that is where do we find the right and qualified people with the right expertise to spread that across those regions and make sure that it stays consistent across the regions. A lot of individuals are willing, but the expertise might not quite be there. So it's a particular challenge. It's interesting times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Fred, again, any questions from the audience?
He's running out of lines on his iPad. I can see it.
I was watching a TV program. I don't know what you guys are doing.
I'll try and help you out. Chris Ludwig, Automotive Logistics. I guess it's to Grant to start, really, because we learned yesterday from Bill Storves that I think 34% of Ford suppliers are 2,500 miles or more away. And it's a striking number, and I guess I wasn't sure if that was North America or global, but I just wondered if in the total landed cost, in the kind of attempt to take all things in consideration, you anticipate that curve to come back a little bit? Are we reaching a point where how much more complex and global can it really get? I mean, other car makers are certainly making a lot of noise about more localization and pulling suppliers closer to plants. And I mean, I'm not saying Ford's doing otherwise, but I just thought since we saw that number, it would be worth talking about it.
I don't know how to talk about it. But no, I mean, the reality is, and I stated it, right, we're getting more global. And there is a group of commodities that you're always going to have close to the plant, right? When you have to hit the broadcast window, you're going to have that close to the plant. We haven't seen the magic bullet yet that says, you know what, I'm going to produce that somewhere overseas, ship it to a warehouse, store it someplace, and then pick from the warehouse. You know, that just doesn't usually generate a good business case, right? But there are some commodities. And again, the relentless pursuit of efficiency doesn't just apply to logistics. It applies to the entire business. So if you can find a way with the purchasing team in the supply chain to achieve economies of scale, to deliver efficiencies that if you spread it out, you've got some overhead costs and some other investments that you're under recovering and inefficient to do. You go and look at that, and that's what logistics is all about, right? That's the challenge. You may be far away from the plant, but as long as you can deliver that part every day, on time, as required, that's okay. You may have less efficiency than an ideal supply chain, but overall, on a landed cost basis and a total investment cost, it may be the right solution for that particular set of commodities. That's reality.
Okay. Anything anyone wants to add to that? Or?
Well, I guess I would just add, I agree. You know, don't know how that stat was developed. We certainly track it for all of our assembly plants, so it really depends on whether you measure by value or by part numbers and to get the statistic. But with some types of commodities are actually evolving to places where they're produced at a very economical rate or from a purchasing perspective. And so being part of the decision-making process, getting the total landed cost in place, they're going to evolve to wherever that is. Castings or wheels, I mean, some of those things are going to be built or produced in certain parts of the world. With global platforms, same thing. You're going to look at how do you minimize the overall investment and still meet all the local content requirements around the globe, and we will be shipping parts more globally. But the key is putting in the most efficient supply chain, making sure you have the complete end-to-end visibility, and then having the tools there so that you can make sure you deliver on time and you're not generating a lot of excess cost and unanticipated costs. So it's just part of what we're going to be faced with. That's why you have to be 24/7 watching the equivalent of the Weather Channel for all of those types of events, because that earthquake that happened over there is disrupting some supply chain, but it's going to affect a North American plant. It's just going to be 10 days from now. So it's part of the game. That's the world we live in.
Okay. Collaboration. There isn't enough collaboration. That's where a lot of the big savings are going to come from. Why isn't there more collaboration? I'll start with Dana.
Thanks. The reason I said thanks is Louis and I have been talking about this for, 4 or 5 years. I think some of the auto manufacturers have done very well trying to get some collaboration. We've certainly been working closely with a couple of the other OEMs to try to get programs put together. We have some that we are just now initiating. It's taken an awful long time. There was a discussion in the OEM or in the Tier 1 panels about doing collaboration amongst themselves. And you really need that go-between to keep things on the up and up and apply the business processes so that the OEMs don't wind up at odds and make the whole thing fall apart. And I think there are some LLPs that are doing a really good job right now of trying to put those business processes together to basically bring a solution to the OEMs, and it's working out very well. But that's really what it takes. It takes that third party to be able to put the proposals together. It's not us working together. It's basically us agreeing to what's being proposed to us.
I'd have to say...
You should be an expert, Bill. Been collaborating with German companies, collaborating with Italian companies.
With a lot of different companies. No, I think we've had some success. I'd have to say on our inbound network, we've had some good success in integrating a couple of our competitors. into the inbound network, and it's been a real win-win, I think, for both of us as we've gone into facilities together on the service parts delivery. I think almost every one of our networks from our depots is a collaborative one with another OE. Almost, like off of the top of my head, I'm trying to think if there's one or two that stick out. But for the most part, the vast majority are. They're shared networks. Dealers don't know the difference. The truck shows up. It's going to be a little bit more difficult with a finished vehicle potentially, especially at the final delivery. But where we're collaborating in that area is I think we do a very good job as an industry on the finished vehicle side, talking together about the issues and coming together with positions and where we need to be. And there is a group on that side of the business that meets very regularly across all the OEs. And so, there's opportunities that will present themselves because we're talking, and that's a good thing. And it might be actually physical freight movement, or it might be legislative. I know that historically, Louis, if there's an intermodal train that people can jump on, but that one starts because automotive sometimes is the base freight, for example, in an area. It tends to get other industries in a lot of cases, or other OEs. So I'm not as pessimistic that it's not happening. It'll continue to happen where it makes sense, and I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah.
Grant, is there enough collaboration? And is the responsibility on you guys? Is it on the LSPs? Do you have to know if there's can there be collaboration without you even knowing about it, where the LSPs, share routes or do stuff on two different companies' behalf, and it doesn't matter whether you know or not?
I'd like to understand if that's going on. I think I'm with Bill, right? I mean, the collaboration is somewhat will generate itself, right? And we've seen that happen. It's not always, some grand strategic plan that we can find a way. As a matter of fact, those tend to fall apart because they're too big to swallow, right? But I think that agile LLPs I think there's an opportunity for them to bring it together. I mean, the whole discussion that was going on around, how can the tier ones get into the OEM networks? I think the LLPs have an opportunity to bring some of that forward to see if there's a way to generate some collaboration out of a need. I mean, none of the LLPs out there that work for the OEMs are going to say that we're asking them to give us a price increase next year, right? None of them. They all know that we're looking. They all know that we're looking for a profitable business for them and a good business, but we're looking to deliver efficiencies to our networks. There's not one of us up here who wouldn't say that, and there's not a single LLP out there who wants to do business with us that doesn't understand that that's the baseline. So, this is something that says collaboration generally turns out to be two-party collaborations to start with, and then people come in beyond that. And when you look at the Ford world, we've done collaborations with GM on transmission development. As a matter of fact, we've got one going on right now that was announced. So we did that with the 6-speed transmissions as well. In the past, we've done some collaborations with Nissan on product. So it's there. I think that it's very tactical, though, in terms of what goes on and what are we trying to do. And I think there's some resistance, or there can be resistance, because you don't want to, the organizations don't want to have a risk of sub-optimizing a potential solution. So I don't think our LLPs are out there doing something without sharing it with any one of us. I really don't think that, because I don't think they could successfully launch it and keep it that way, because as soon as there's an error state that comes up from the other customers within that, it's going to show up somewhere in the supply chain, and we're going to ask a lot of questions.
Okay. I'm going to pick on the audience a little bit, and in this instance, I'm going to pick on Brad Jacobs from XPO Logistics. Brad gave a great presentation yesterday about what he and his company can do for the car makers in the automotive industry. But Brad, your company's invested a lot of money in logistics, companies, acquisitions, investment, and so on. Here's an opportunity to tell your customers, what can they do for you? What can they do to help you to serve them better. So we don't want to know what you're doing for them. We want to know what they could do to help you improve your service for them.
The main thing that comes to mind for me is just communicate more and let us know what we're doing right more often, and more importantly, let us know what we're doing wrong, where we're dropping the ball more often too. So we have more instantaneous communication in real time of how we're doing.
Okay. You guys don't look like the type that are too scared to communicate when someone's doing something wrong.
Well, I say internally, I don't need any attaboys. I need to know what I need to improve, but I get it, I understand. So the reward and but personally, and some of my people have heard this, I'm not looking for attaboys. I'm looking for what I need to do improve, and very constructive criticism. Hopefully we're getting better at it, but we can always improve. So,
Is communication good enough between, you kind of communicate the obvious things so that they know what to do, but is the communication good enough to help them and to improve? And is it early enough to enable them to do what they need to do?
well, sometimes we think it is, but when we get into situations or issues, you find out that maybe it didn't get communicated down, or it wasn't quite as effective as it could have been. So, those are some of the things that we've learned, even from the winter, that there wasn't enough fast enough communication. So we need to improve. There's no doubt about it, and making sure that it gets throughout an organization. It should be relatively easy to get information out there, but managing the information, as we all had to turn off our phones and Blackberries up here anyhow, you do get overwhelmed. There is a lot of information, and you have to sort through what's important and how fast they can respond. So I think there's a fine balance of blasting too much out and making sure that what you send out is germane, and somebody needs to react to it quickly, and got to come up with a way to do that.
Dana?
Yeah, I would add that I think a lot of the communication, I'll speak for our organization, a lot of the communication gets slowed because we get so self-absorbed with the changes that we're trying to manage ourselves. Sometimes we forget to bring along the service providers and let them know what we're doing as well, and maybe until the last minute or next to the last minute.
Grant?
Well, first I'm going to do a public shout out of thank you to XPO for helping us with the Dearborn truck transformation. You guys did a fantastic job for us acquiring all that special equipment over a very short period of time and helping us get that equipment staged and put into the plant. So thank you. Yeah, we probably don't do that often enough. I saw Bill out in the hall, and I told him as well. So thank you for that. The one thing I'd say again is I think the doors, my door, and I think these guys' doors is always open for discussion and communication. But I also think it's really important at the operating level that we have a dashboard, right? We have our control panels, and that we get those standardized and we understand. And there's always going to be a core set of metrics that we need to make sure that we're crystal clear on what the objectives are, what our status is, and how we move on those. But I can tell you that beyond that core set of metrics, I've seen scorecards over the years change fairly dramatically in terms of what we include and what are the priorities that are coming after us. I think that's important, that those dashboards are useful not only at the operating level, but all the way to the top of the house in terms of how we stay connected on what's driving our businesses together. And so I think those may not necessarily be used as effectively as they could be used, and there's room for improvement there. But nobody's ever shy about telling, hey, I got a problem, I need the help. We're not often that great at saying thank you and pointing out the work that was accomplished very well, and the efficiency or the good news that was brought that was unexpected good news. So we can all do better that way.
Louis, can we flip the tables?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll give you a question back. In your mind, what are good, valid ways for us to improve the communication? What venues should how should we communicate more?
I think it has to be multimodal. I think the electronic form is great, and the metrics are great, And the exceptions on the metrics is a great thing too, but there's no exception for no replacement for the human element. And I think the human element has to be at various levels of escalation. That's proportionate to how serious the problem and the consequences are, all the way up to our level. If it's a serious problem, it should come all the way to the top.
Well, that focus was more on when a problem exists, but what about for just general planning?
Oh, that's even better. So I think that should be done in conjunction with the annual operating plan process together. I think that's an excellent idea. The year before, not in the middle of the year.
Okay, logistics, right part at the right place at the right time at the right price. Is that it? Is that what logistics is? Isn't there more to it than that? And one of my big things is innovation. Is there enough innovation in logistics? But if we're basically looking at right part, right place, etc., do we allow time in our processes that we develop? You know, Grant, you got some fantastic processes that you were kind of explaining to me when I was in Dearborn. But are they so tight that what logistics is all about is tweaking, doing the basics better? Do you allow room for innovation? Or are we not even particularly looking for innovation? It's just about doing what we do more efficiently.
Do you want me to go first?
Yes, please. Because I didn't even understand the question.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was really a question there, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's what logistics is. Mm-hmm. Right part, right place, right time, right? Mm-hmm. Optimized channels, optimized inventory, et cetera. I think, though, there is room for innovation. I mean, I was mentioning to you in the hall, right? I think, today it's all physical movement, right? But there's data tied to that physical movement. As I stated earlier, right? We all have these smartphones. We're not necessarily all tied to the latest level of electronic innovation for us to do our business in-house as well as with our partners. How do we do that? How do we connect? We talked a little bit about, last year I said, I'm still waiting for Scotty to come out of the laboratory with his transporter. Well, guess what? 3D printing. That is the production of a part on site, customized right there. Is that the first stage of a transporter, right? You don't need to have something delivered. You need it produced and delivered. That is the definition of efficient logistics. Nothing moves until you've got the part, and it moves from a location right there to the point of fit in your production line. That is one hell of a set of efficient logistics. The only thing you're worried about is the raw material that goes into that 3D printer. And last time I looked, bulk delivery was pretty good. You didn't even get a rail car in your plant for that one. So it is the core, but there is innovation, right? Where do we lose? Where's the value that you add? The value that you add in logistics is getting that part to the assembler to put on the vehicle, because that's what the customer's paying for. But we could do that a lot easier. We lose information tied to the part as you move through that logistics channel and deliver the product. Nobody in this room has ever had a perfect cycle count, right? If we did, I need to hire you, right? You need to come on board. That's what inventory helps us take out, is some of the variation that goes on in the logistics channel. So there's room for innovation. How do you tag that? There's RFID, there's all kinds of things that we can start to innovate. How do we make our people more effective in doing their jobs within the space of the logistics channels? Why can't they be out there doing a cycle count on a mobile platform that has an app, right? Has an app. I mean, part of our challenge as an industry and just as a logistics in general is we got to make sure that we can bring the talent that's coming out of our schools today, right? My kid is not going to go work on a green screen. He's going to work on a mobile device and be happy. If I force him to sit in a green screen, he's going to find a different job. So we've got to innovate just to stay competitive. And there's lots of room to do it in. Again, within that framework of relentless pursuit of efficiency. It's got to pan out.
Dana?
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of things that come up that people ask, is this the next future of logistics? And by the way, you might have started something, he mentioned logistics channel. We're talking about the weather channel, maybe we need a logistics channel.
There's an app for that, I'm sure.
But there are a lot of things that come up. Conversation, I believe yesterday, it may have been, I'm not sure where it was, what venue I heard it, but talking about driverless trucks. You know, that solves the driver problem, right? And your first reaction is to laugh, but it's not so funny. Because if you think about the trajectory that improvements and the trajectory that technology has taken, it's been a really steep trajectory. Last night going through the Henry Ford Museum, which I haven't been there since I was a kid, so that was great. Thank you, Ryder. Looking at the pictures of Kitty Hawk in 1903, that's not that long ago. And now you think about stepping on a plane and going anywhere very quickly, and you think about how rapidly that developed. And I've used that analogy to explain to our folks internally that, you know, the logistics programming is on that same trajectory. What we might call a tweak to our network today, 10 years ago would have been a major overhaul, as an example. So we're on that same trajectory. So the question that came out of your statement was, is there enough innovation? I think the answer is definitely yes. It just may seem more subtle to us today that we don't realize that we're making pioneering moves.
Yeah, I think absolutely right. I agree with everything that's been said. I think that getting the right part to the right place, that's blocking and tackling. That's the fundamentals. We always need to be able to do that. Otherwise, we won't be sitting here if we can't do that. But we have a term in our company that's called reaching for discontinuity, which is one of the key behaviors that we evaluate ourselves on. And that's really break the mold. What do we need to do differently? How do we break the paradigms? Those are, maybe overused catchphrases, but nevertheless, that innovation piece, many of us that are sitting in this room, things that exist today didn't exist 10 years ago or 15 years ago. They were invented, they were put in place because of a need. It's incumbent upon us to find out where we're going and how do we build that transporter so that we can just transport the parts. It's going to come. Something like that will come. There will be a technology. So what I do like about the automotive industry and why I like to have loved being in automotive logistics is that we have a mass about us as manufacturers collectively to innovate these kinds of things. We can create and destroy networks as we need, and we do as sort of a course of business. Hopefully not destroying companies along the way, that's not the intent, but to rethink the way we're doing business is something that we do as a matter of course with our vehicles, right? Every year we've got new vehicles that are launching, so we're always in the company, we're always looking at, wow, this is the latest and greatest, this is the technology, this is what we're doing with our vehicles, and it permeates through most of our companies, I think. So, we need to innovate more on the logistics side and not get complacent that what we've got today is the best that we can do.
And for all three of you, what's been your favorite business success, for the past 12 months? So it's not necessarily where you saved $100 million, although it could be. It could be some small tweak or something that you're particularly pleased with in the last year or so.
Surviving the winter of 2014.
Or as we call it in the UK, weather.
It was wintergeddon.
Yeah. So
Maybe I'll go. We've hired in a lot of new people. We've brought a lot of people in from university, and I think one of the things that I've found most exciting is to see the energy that the new talent is bringing in to the field and to the company in particular. And I think the success of us over the long term, of our company over the long term in particular, will be the new attitudes that are brought in the energy level and the tech and the capabilities that come with what's being taught at the university level, the capabilities and the top talent that's coming in. So that's a success, and I'd have to say that in my role heading up, it's a lot about talent acquisition, talent retention, training, and it's a lot about the people. So I find that personally rewarding. There's a lot of other business successes and a lot of other challenges with convergence, but to me, I'm really excited about the level and talent of the people that we have and that we've been working with, and we see it with the service providers too. It's the young talent that's coming in is good to see.
Dana.
I would say probably our biggest success that I would tout over the last 12 months is also one of our, probably our largest challenges. We've recently turned over how we deliver parts from Honda Motor in Japan, and doing a distribution network here and allowing Japan to do a consolidation for multiple plants and get better efficiency. And this may sound very kind of an infancy stage step, but for us it's a huge leap. Because we basically took 35 years of how we did business and said we can do it a different way, and actually now are trying to initiate that from region to region within the Honda networks. So it's a big change in our supply chain, one that was established when we started doing business in the United States. And the reason it's the biggest pain point is it's a huge undertaking. Nothing went right. If you can imagine trying to initiate a consolidation from Japan, coming into one location, distributing parts to 7 other facilities, and having all the trains coming in out of schedule because of the winter weather. It was quite a fiasco. Yeah, I think we all experienced that, but do that during a startup. So it was quite a challenge, but it was a huge undertaking for us, and now it's becoming more of our global standard.
So Grant, apart from being on stage at the conference, what's been your favorite success of?
Sitting next to you at the conference.
Fair point.
I think the biggest success I would tout is that the team inside of Ford coming together truly as a global organization, and having the pleasure of establishing some truly global positions that are driving commonality and standardization across the globe. And that is, as you say, Dana, that's no small feat. And now, of course, all eyes are on execution and continuity. But I think that's probably the biggest success and the engagement we've seen from the team and making that successful.
Well, one of my biggest successes this year was at this conference. Last night we had a Motown evening hosted by Serge, and I had the opportunity to sing on the stage. And people kept coming up to me and saying, "Louis, you should get a new job."
We all agree with that.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed. It was nothing to do with my singing. They just think I should get a new job. But, yeah. So I just, if there's any more questions from the floor, from my older brother there.
Yeah, I would remind the audience he sang tracks of my tears, and we were all weeping by the end of it. I can assure you of that. But it was from pain rather than pleasure. Just a little more of a, I guess, outbound question, or maybe order to delivery. Do you have ETA systems for your dealers or customers when they order a vehicle, like a projected ETA? And are you tracking how close and how accurate it is, and are you working to improve that? So just some comments on that.
Yes, we have.
We're in the country of, we're in the United States, right?
In the U.S., yeah.
So I take the 5th.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm on hallowed ground right here.
Yeah, we have ETA promises, and we track to the ETAs, and that's part of the metrics that we have in our outbound network. So,
Are you pretty close?
well, it's been a bit of a challenge this year, but we're getting back on track, literally. So, getting back to where we need to be. It's been a challenge.
Yeah, but it depends what your targets are as well. There was one car maker who told me, we know exactly when our cars are going to be delivered to the dealers within 9 days. And I kind of thought, well, that's, that's cheating a little bit.
I think we probably all have them. We do have them, right? And some of the challenges I think we all face is how accurate do we get, and how integrated are we with the sales process, right? Because again, part of this is how can you generate satisfaction, customer satisfaction, and prevent dissatisfaction? And is there revenue in making sure that you can deliver the vehicle to the day that the customer has, and from how long is that? What's the point? What's the point of promise? So, you know, we could probably give a really close and a good, accurate ETA once we board the, for sure when you board the conveyance, right? In the market in which the product's going to get delivered, not necessarily the conveyance at the port of exit if it's an imported product. But so it's a question of what's the game and what are you trying to accomplish, right? And how are you aligning across the enterprise to deliver that, and what is it in terms of customer satisfaction? You know, the old days, you always sold from the lot, right? So the concern there was how could you get the next lot to the dealer who ordered what he wanted to put on his lot, so he could take his customer through that. The game's changing a bit.
Okay, and the final question, the session's called 2020 Vision.
I wear glasses, so I can tell you I don't have it.
What's it going to be like in 2020? So it could be either for within your organizations as car makers, what's automotive logistics going to be like in 2020? Or perhaps, you know, even more interesting, or, you know, another perception could be, what's it going to be like for your logistics service providers? What are they going to be doing? What are they going to be providing? What services? What are an automotive logistics service provider going to look like in 2020? Dana.
Whatever Dana says, I agree.
But I'm not sure too many of these guys are going to be here, so you can tell us the truth.
I'm going to borrow Grant's crystal ball because basically it's really hard to predict based on that fast ramp up of our industry, our vehicles, regulations, you name it. But I think one prediction I think I could stand by is it's going to look different than today, and it's not going to be a one-size solution fits all. I think already you're seeing, you know, we're talking about using multimodal and trying to employ multimodal, whether we do it by design or we do it out of necessity. If we run out of drivers, we have no choice. So we're going to have to find different modes. But I think from a logistics standpoint, we're probably going to be looking at a lot of different methods and basically reinventing ourselves over and over again. My personal opinion.
Bill?
Yeah, I think, I think that certainly there'll be more standardization of the processes. I think we're all on that path, that we recognize that, you know, as global companies, we'll have production in all the different regions where we'll produce vehicles. We'll have, you can see it in the engineering and the way the vehicles are being developed, common platforms, global platform. So that'll present some challenges, probably because of the international trade of parts where it makes sense to build, like we talked about earlier. I think the information, if I take a look at how much and how easy it is to get information now compared to even 4, 5, 10 years ago, I think that'll just continue to escalate or speed down a path where, you know, we'll get, you know, visibility and information that much quicker. The communication, the efforts to improve communication will also be quickly improved. And then I think we'll get better tools at how to sort out what's hot and what's not, and, you know, and alerts and flags and better decision management tools when we get into, you know, different situations. So I'd say there should be, I would hope, streamlining of operations, getting more efficient, sort of the thing that we all have done all of our careers will continue, and the information, the visibility to where our assets are and where the critical issues are so we can put our attention there will get faster. And as I said, the talent that we're bringing out, the young folks that are going to school now are going to have grown up in it. So the technology that they grow up with is going to be second nature. It's going to be, they're already, phones are attached to their fingers, and they can, I don't know, my daughters can text without even looking at it, and I can't even text, with 2 fingers. It's incredible watching them do this stuff. And so that'll just increase exponentially as well. So I'm excited about what's going to happen in what it's going to be like in 2020. And maybe I'll be up here talking to you about, what I said in 2014. But if not, somebody else will. And I think that we'll see a lot of improvement.
Okay, Grant, your visions. I mean, you were the one who said, probably 10 years ago, that you wanted, the kind of Star Trek effect, and we're getting close to it with the 3D printing. So what?
I think, there is some potential for disruptive activity to take place. I mean, we didn't talk about it this year at all, but we haven't heard much about the Hyperloop from our friends out at Tesla, right? Don't know if Tesla's still here today, right? Hey, Mike. But, if there really is, the reality is, right, there's a lot of invested infrastructure in logistics. We've got rail infrastructure, port infrastructure, maritime infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of invested capital on where we are. So where do we get innovation around that, right? And, from something I'd like to try and find a way to get to is an agile and flexible network capability, right? Such that as you get the signals on what's going on with your build, you can change the routing, you can change the cube utilization without sacrificing the delivery timing of your network. That to me would be extremely, that would be a leap over what we're doing today in terms of efficiency and what we can do, right? That is real-time adjustment of the network to deliver what we need to do, which could tie all the way back into your order to delivery to try and give what the customer really wants. And if they're willing to pay a premium for it, if you can deliver that to help it without putting a lot of inventory in the system, that would be a tremendous leap forward in terms of where we are. So those agile, flexible networks tied to a very agile, fast network for transmitting of the data to do so. And it's got to be without adding inventory at any node within the network and within the supply chain. That's the trick. And again, you do that. You could do that with 3D printing, but you can't 3D print a car, sorry. Too many moving parts. But that's the kind of things that we're going to start to see. And that's the kind of stuff that you can start to see you see it all the time in other industries. You get the disruptive technology innovation. So where is that? That's what we need to try and find. And the person who gets that first is going to have one hell of an advantage.
I must admit, I was hoping for driverless cars, drone deliveries of vehicles, and warehouses in the sky or something.
By
but
the time
agile
that
networks
comes around, you
will do.
never need to leave your house. So we'll all be out of business because there'll be drones flying everywhere and nobody needs to go anywhere.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think we've reached the end of the panel discussion and the end of the conference, really. So firstly, I'd like to thank the panel for their contribution once again. Thank you. I was going to stand up and walk around, but I don't think I can get up.
You can't get out of the chair.
Yeah. Just a reminder about the evaluation forms. If you haven't completed the evaluation forms, please complete them. They're very important. And if you want to complain about any of our panel members, it's Belanger.
Pronounce Belanger, please.
Yeah. And of course, it's Grant with 2 R's. Grant. That's what it should be. I hope you've had a good couple of days. We've started off looking at what Michigan can offer. Today we were talking about what Mexico can offer. It is an exciting time to be in automotive logistics. There's the importance of the industry has once again shown through. There were some great quotes from the governor of Guanajuato from Mexico talking about, you could have the best companies, you can have good locations, you can have good free trade zones, but without good logistics, it doesn't mean anything. So what you do is very important. The industry, the automotive industry, is going to change has changed tremendously in the last 10 years, is going to probably change even more so in the next 10 years. But one thing that will be a constant is that automotive logistics is going to have a huge, huge role to play in that. So, we've got to you guys have got to keep developing, keep moving forward, keep coming up with new ideas and keep supporting the industry and remind ourselves that, we're not a cost, we're not just, maybe we can look at the language of logistics. What we call waste elimination, your marketing team would call adding value, would call, adding to the bottom line. Cost savings are something that is an addition to the bottom line, to the profits of the company. So let's talk about what we do to give more profits to your company. Let's talk about, it's not, some kind of service parts logistics. It's making the customer happy. Finished vehicle logistics is not, getting the car to, just getting it to the dealer. It's creating, a better experience for the customer, the end customer, that they're getting their car on time, damage-free. So let's change the language of logistics, because what we do is very important. What you do is very important, and be proud of what you do. It's almost just a marketing job. Maybe we need to get some kind of PR guy in for the automotive logistics industry to send that message out to the car makers at the very highest levels. We've become so used to be the guys who get beaten up when there's a weather problem or when there's a hurricane, then that's where automotive logistics suddenly gets recognized. You guys all gave the wrong answer when I asked about what the important region is going to be in 2015, because the correct answer was actually Mexico, because we're launching our new conference in 2015, January 27 to 29 in Mexico City, Automotive Logistics Mexico. You can see by the amount of time that we gave to it in the conference, and it's obviously going to be a hugely important region. And of course, once again, logistics will play an important part in the development of the automotive industry in Mexico. So, under a lot of pressure from the car makers, we've launched this new conference. I think we had two lots of pressure. One from the car makers who really pushed that we should be doing the conference in Mexico, not just covering it at global. And there was also a lot of pressure from my wife, who said, how can she get me out of the house in December and January? So I think that was part of the reason. But
you didn't want to go to Chicago in the winter, Louis?
Yeah. the fact that it's in, you could either be in Detroit in January or Mexico is beside the point. So I hope that we'll see a lot of you in Mexico. I'd like to thank our sponsors once again for their support. Our premier sponsor, and has been the sponsor from day one of our conferences, so for the 15th year in a row, Ryder, thank you very much for your support. Our global sponsor, Wallenius Wilhelmsen Logistics. Our gold sponsors, Air Charter Service, APL Logistics Vasco, SIVA, CTM, ICL, Jack Cooper, Penske, Pink, ProTrans, Sergere, UPDS, and XPO Logistics. And to our silver sponsors, Cargo Base, FedEx, Flexis, Geodis Wilson, Goodpack, GT Nexus, Inform, KHS, Kinaxis, Landstar, Menlo, Neovia, Orbis, Royale International, Seco, Transfreight, TNT, United Road, and UTI. And we're very proud that we've got this list, this long list of sponsors, apart from the obvious reasons. But it's great that there's so many people who are still pushing to be in the automotive logistics industry, that these guys are sponsoring because they've got services, knowledge, product, something that they feel will help you to do your job. So hopefully to help you find the efficiencies that you guys require. Have we collected the evaluation forms yet? But I do hope that another important thing is that whatever you did learn, whatever's different, anything that you picked up from the conference, please remember it and use it. You know, I know that many of you, you know, will go back to your office, you'll have something, probably even written it down. I must remember this is really important, this is really valuable, I must do this. And then you get back to your office and you think, right, been out of the office for 3 days, let me just catch up on what's happened over the last 3 days. And then you get caught behind on something else. And the important things, the important messages, the things that you feel you must do, just kind of get left behind. Let's make sure you follow up on what you want to do. Follow up on the contacts you've made. Go through your business cards that you've collected and continue that process. Use automotive logistics in any ways that you can. You know, we got the magazines, two magazines, Automotive Logistics and Finished Vehicle Logistics. We're always open to new ideas, suggestions on who we should be covering, what we should be covering, or if you want to be covered, if you've got ideas that you think you should present to us. You know, Chris is very open to any ideas on what we can do to improve and grow the coverage. We've got Automotive Logistics newsletter, weekly newsletter. Any news that you get, feed it through to us. Let us know what's happening. Feed the information through. I often get kind of complaints. Why weren't we in the last issue of the magazine? Why weren't we in the newsletter? Why weren't we as speakers at a conference? Because we don't know about it. You've got to tell us. So keep feeding the information through to us. You know, our medium is your medium. So, you know, help us to provide you with the information and the news that you want. And of course, it isn't just necessarily what's on the print, what's out in the public. If there's anything that we can do as an organization to help you with contacts, ideas, or anything, you know, we travel around the world constantly picking up what's happening around the world. So let us know what we can do for you in print, at the conferences, or in private as well in other ways. So let me just find out. Just trying to find the name.
It's spelled with 2 R's, Louis.
Yeah. No. All right, next one. Does that mean I can keep the biscuits? Just another piece of advice for the conferences. If you're filling in one of these forms, don't be shy. We can take criticism. Oh, third time lucky. Now, the good thing is this guy's got the name, but I don't care what he thinks. So, no. Tom Swenes. Is Tom Swenes still in the room? Tom Swenes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tom. The Queen's biscuits. Yeah. I don't know if that means you now become a sir if you eat the Queen's biscuits. But thank you very much. I hope you've had a great couple of days. Made some good contacts, renewed old contacts, learned something new, contributed to the conversation. And like I said, really, you know, anything we can do to help you, please let us know. I'm trying to think what our calendar is from now on, at least from the conferences. Where are we? September. So September is Detroit. October is a vehicle logistics conference in Europe, in Amsterdam this year. November is Sao Paulo, or Automotive Logistics South America conference. December is Automotive Logistics India. January is Automotive Logistics Mexico. February is my wife's birthday, so we don't do anything in February. March is Automotive Logistics Europe. April is Automotive Logistics China. May is our Finished Vehicle Logistics Conference in California. June is Automotive Logistics Russia, if we're allowed in or not. August is our Import-Export North America Conference, which this year was in Baltimore. And I think that takes us back to September 2015, back in Detroit at Automotive Logistics Global. So hopefully we'll see many of you and more of your colleagues in 2015. But thank you very much. Thanks.
Whoa.